If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. As I mention all the time on this channel, symbols and signs are things that we don't pick up on because we were not taught or trained to use our mind in this way. That's why they get us at a young age. They get us in the school system. They indoctrinate us with lies and tall tales about the history of the world. And they waste our time for years and years and years as our brain is developing. And then when the brain is pretty much fully developed, they throw us out of the school system and people just walk around the rest of their lives like zombies walking into things. But symbols and signs do rule and control the world. And there's symbols that I've exposed in this channel before. You can check out my playlist on the symbols that I've exposed. It's important to know these things, but we have to think this way. We have to ask questions. And this is probably a question that nobody out there's probably ever even thought about asking. What about the origins of the dollar sign, right? Where did this come from? Why is it there, right? Think about it. Just another symbol that we all know. It's on our computer on the 4 key. It's the symbol used to show a dollar amount. It's a symbol that, as most of these symbols, or I should say all of these symbols, goes back to the occult. It connects to Satanism. It connects to Freemasonry. Now, the letter S, which people should know, is used all the time as a disguise. They disguise and use the S because the S really represents Satan, and the S represents and looks like the serpent. That's why the Medical Association has the serpent wrapped around. Nobody asks questions why there'd be a snake representing the American Medical Association. Also things like Superman, right? If you look closely, you can see that it's actually made to be a serpent. You can see the eye at the top. That is true. And if you're somebody who loves Superman, well, guess what? That's what that letter is there for. It's all about the occult. All of this stuff ties back, including this symbol, the dollar sign. Now, let's start with the basics of the dollar sign. The dollar sign has the S with 1 or 2 lines going through it. Now, the 2 lines going through it represents the pillars of Hercules. If you look at this photo, you can see the 2 pillars, and then you can see what looks like an S wrapped around it. Now, why does that and what does that relate to? Well, if you follow this channel, you know that the pillars are representative of Freemasonry. In Freemasonry, the pillars, which they call Jachin and Boaz, represent the Brotherhood's most recognizable symbol other than the black and white checkered floors that we always see. The concept of the twin pillars is standing at the gates of sacred places can be traced back to ancient civilizations. The symbol of the twin pillars have, according to them, guarded the gateways to holy places and mysterious realms. They mark the passage towards the unknown and the otherworldly. In ancient Greece, the Pillars of Hercules was the phrase that was applied to the flank of the entrance to the Strait of Gibraltar. The northern pillar is the Rock of Gibraltar in the British territory of Gibraltar. So you see the pillars, right? We see how Masonry is tied in to all of this. Masonry, Freemasonry. Every town has a Freemason lodge. Nobody asks why or what they do or who funds it. Nobody cares because it doesn't affect their day-to-day life. But if people actually would snap out of the trance, they'd start seeing all of this stuff. So you see this symbol and how it relates. It also is used in Wicca, and it's called the scourge. Not to be confused with Scrooge, but the scourge, which means whipped. And you can see that this is a basic symbol used in witchcraft, that the Wiccans use it, but they all tie in to the same thing. These people are all worshipers or all followers of the occult practices. These people who deny Jesus Christ, who go out of their way to inflict spiritual warfare on Christians. This is the stuff that's going on. These are the things that are right in plain sight that nobody sees, that nobody asks questions about. Think about it. Wouldn't the symbol for money or a dollar or dollars be something with a D? Why is it the S? Because the S and the serpent with the pillars. That is why. And you'll find, if you go through my playlist, or if you just study for yourself, that all of the symbols that we know and use in our day-to-day life, all of them have a tie-in to the occult. These symbols, which they give dual meaning to, right? I've talked about the peace sign. And people still fight me on that because, oh, I grew up in the 70s, and to us it didn't mean that, or the 60s. It didn't mean what you're saying it means. It meant this to us. Well, I'm telling you what it means, okay? Just because they give these symbols dual meanings for a reason, so they can get away with flashing it in our faces, and if somebody calls them out, they could call you crazy and say it means this when it really means that. The peace sign represents Jesus upside down on the cross with his arms dragged down. When they are indoctrinated in Satanism, or I should say broken down, right? Snapped down. When they're indoctrinated in Satanism, these people are given a wheel in which they denounce Jesus Christ. That's what the symbol represents. That's why celebrities are always wearing it and flashing it, not because they care about world peace, for crying out loud. But nobody asks those things. Nobody thinks about that stuff. And when it has dual meaning, it's easy for them to just call you crazy. And then all you really have to do is just look into the origins of these things. Think about all the symbols in our day-to-day life. We see the lightning bolt all the time, right? I talk about what that means. It's pretty easy to figure out what it means. It's Lucifer's fall. We see other symbols that are constantly being used. This is how not only they communicate, this is how they indoctrinate. So the dollar sign, which is a symbol that nobody talks about and nobody thinks about, but I just wanted to show you, again, just like the American Medical Association, which I've discussed and talked about earlier on when my channel first started, just saying, why in the world, if you were just going to design the symbol, right? Say you got hired before there was an American Medical Association symbol. How would you come up with this as the symbol? What if you were hired before there was a symbol for the dollar and somebody said, we need a symbol for our currency? Well, what are we going to call the currency? Well, we're going to call it the dollar. Okay, well, maybe we should use like a D or something because it stands for dollar and then people will be easy to remember it, right? You think common sense would tell us these things? But no, people don't ask those types of things. We constantly see the serpent used. S has dual meanings to them. S, which represents the serpent, represents Satan. It's so obvious and so in our faces that some people can't even grasp that. They go, that's just ridiculous. Just like I said about Superman. Because people are plugged in. They're attached. They love this stuff. People get so defensive over things like that. Like I'm attacking their father, or I'm attacking their wife or their daughter by talking about Superman or Star Wars or any of this nonsense they've indoctrinated people with. You can't see that these are about witchcraft, okay, and sorcery, Superman. I mean, it's all the same stuff. Being a superhero. What do you think they're talking about? They're talking about the superhuman race through AI, through transhumanism that they're trying to create. I mean, it's all right there. But again, I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but I want people to be aware that these symbols all tie back to the same stuff. So if you look at this, right, and you can even see it, because even if you're somebody who believes in all the lies and stuff out there, you can just even go to the Wikipedia, and you could see the pillars of Hercules and how it ties in. It's about the pillars, right? And if the pillars of Hercules represent what? Like I just said, this gateway. What do you think the gateway is to? You think a gateway is an entranceway to Target or Walmart? They're talking about the other side, behind the veil. That's what they're talking about. That's why these symbols are so important. The pillars are so important. The black and white, all of this stuff. And they indoctrinate us with it every day. And people use these symbols. They don't realize what they even mean. The Satanists and the Wiccans, they have so many symbols that they use. And if you went through it, you'd say, these are all normal. Wait a minute, what? These are symbols we're using in our everyday life. The infinity sign, the figure 8. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it's all connected back to them. So I just wanted to do something about the dollar sign because I was thinking about it a lot recently. I just hadn't gotten around to doing a video on it, but just looking at it and thinking of the stupidity of it, right? And then, of course, they'll give you some lie stories about its origins. Even though still, if you look deep into it, they still try to say, we don't know. We don't really even know the origins. Then they give you a little story here, a little story there that they think it's connected to. How would you not know the origins of something that's, 200 plus years old? We wouldn't know the origins of that, but they tell us all this other fake history from, please spare me the lies, okay? When they tell you that they don't know, it means that they don't even have a lie good enough to represent the deception that they're playing on the American people. So you can see the 2 pillars and the serpent, the dollar sign, no surprise. When you see S's in logos or you see 2 lines, remember that the 2 lines, they might not look like pillars to you, okay? They might just look like 2 lines, but the 2 pillars always will be representative of Freemasonry, and they'll disguise it by just making it 2 regular lines. They don't need to make it look more pillar-like. Okay? And the S was always designed to be a disguise for the serpent. And this is just more of the same. An indoctrination of our regular lives with these symbols that we don't ask questions about. They don't teach us this stuff for a reason. There's a reason that we're told so much nonsense from such a young age. And we're told and trained not to use our brains in this way. To pull back and ask questions about certain stuff like this. We just go with it because it's there, right? Well, it's the dollar sign. It was made. It's there. I don't need to ask questions. That's what people think. That's how they work. That's how they operate. And they're too busy to ask questions. So they should ask questions because most, if not all, symbols go back and connect to the occult. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.